Hey folks, I hope you're all well and staying safe. Now I know we all like to save money, but we also like to have fun. Well, what's more fun than a PvP shooter in VR? However, you have three big names to choose from: Contractors, Onward and Pavlov. The VR trinity of shooters. And you may not be able to afford them all, so you want to know which one to get. Well, have no fear, Whackman is here. We are going to compare all three games to find out which game is the best for you. Now, I have already done a full review for all three games, so if you want to check them out, please see the description below. In this video, we will go through a lot of important comparative elements that actually affect you when you're playing. I'll try and put a timestamp for the particular section of the video if that's all you want to see. I will also be giving a ranking to each game per section to see which game is better in that area. But I will give you enough details to make your own decision. So I'm sorry that the video might be a bit long, but I've tried to give you as much information as possible. This video was actually quite difficult to make, so I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video and share with your friends interested in VR. Also, I'll be announcing the winner of the giveaway for Doom VFR later in this video. But don't worry, the giveaway for Fallout 4 VR is now on for one of my subscribers. Well, let's get straight into it. For this comparison video, I'm going to give a rating out of 3 to each game, where 1 is the lowest and 3 is the highest. While watching the video, why not give your own scores and let me know in the comments what your total came to. Visuals are up first. Contractors. For me, Contractors has the best visuals from all three games. When it comes to the weapons, the definition in the guns is amazing and they actually look real. When you're firing the gun and you can see the muzzle flash and the smoke coming out of the gun, it just looks awesome and gives you an awesome feeling. Although the worst part of the guns is that they never leave any bullet holes, which can be quite immersion breaking. This might be due to an attempt to maintain performance, but I think it's just a lacking feature. The maps in Contractors are also gorgeous, though this might be because the maps all seem to be brighter, so things just look better. The grenade explosions are the best out of all three games, as you actually feel like you used a grenade instead of a child's exploding fun snap. Now, some people have said that it's more realistic when the explosions aren't that dramatic. But for me, I love when my explosions go boom. Onward. The visuals for Onward are generally quite nice, but what really sets it apart is the night vision goggles. The first time I tried it, I just went, whoa, that is cool. They give a look and feeling that none of the other two games have been able to do. The best part of this is when you attach laser sights to your guns and then use the night visions to be able to show your teammates where you are by pointing to the sky. Not only that, you can also locate the enemy as their laser sights will also be shining. I think this is a really cool feature that brings a whole new level to the game. Another awesome visual feature is that you can see the breath of the players when you're outside in the cold, and the fact that there are weather effects just makes it feel even more epic. These are small things but really do make you feel immersed. The look of the maps in the game feel a little dull for me, but most of them are big open spaces and you need to engage the enemy from far away. Pavlov. Now Pavlov probably comes in last place when it comes to just the looks. However, that doesn't matter when it has a lot of other things going for it after the new update that was introduced. For example, I was using a light machine gun and when I kept the trigger down, eventually the gun heated up and you could see the barrel of the gun slowly going red until it was too hot to fire, and I had to wait a few seconds before being able to use it. This was quite impressive, but one of the best things the game has over the other two is the gore. Pavlov has added a full gore system where you can use a shotgun to blast half of the body of the enemy or even blow their heads off. And the best part is the body reacts exactly as you shoot them. Now this might be a little too dramatic or gruesome for some people, although this is a game about killing people, but I think it's fantastic and it truly makes you feel like a badass. So, overall, who wins the battle of the visuals? Well, this is a hard one to decide since they all have something going for them. But if you simply want a game that's really nice to look at visually, then Contractors is the best visually. However, if you want the visuals to be a bit more gruesome, then I would say Pavlov. But if you want the visuals to have a more realistic effect, then I would say Onward. So all three games tie for the visuals but for different reasons. Next up is performance. This will be a quick one but is still important to mention. Contractors. I have actually a few issues with performance when it comes to Contractors, as there is some random stutter and lag that I experience when playing. I initially thought this might be something I'm experiencing, however I checked with other players and they also experienced this. This is kind of unacceptable for a PvP game, where that split second your game lags in the middle of a gunfight, you die. However, it generally works well most of the time, but this is an important factor to mention. Onward. I have a couple of small issues with Onward, but they aren't game breaking or even affect you when you're in game. The initial loading time in Onward really takes the mick though. You have to wait for ages for it to load up, and considering you're sitting there in a VR headset doing nothing and looking at nothing really starts irritating me, as it takes over a full minute just to load into the menu screen. Then once you're ready to start a match, it takes a noticeable amount of time again, around 30 seconds. However, these are small niggles that I can get over. But one thing I really dislike is when you choose a new map, the game basically kicks everyone out and attempts to bring them back in. But not everyone makes it back. It really is like war. You end up having to leave good men behind. I was playing with some cool folks and one of these transitions to a different map ended kicking me out and I had to find the lobby again. Other than these issues, I never once had an issue in-game with stuttering or lag, which is actually the most fundamental part of these games. Pavlov. When it comes to Pavlov, the loading times are quick and getting into the game is quick. But like Contractors, it does have its moments when it starts lagging and stuttering, but nowhere near as often as Contractors. So, for performance, Contractors gets a rating of 1.5, Onward gets a rating of 2.5, and Pavlov gets a rating of 2. Now let's move on to the gameplay elements. However, there are a lot of subsections in this that we will go through, but if you're enjoying the video so far, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Now, one thing each game has done is implemented mod support. So the first thing we will start off with is mod support. Contractors. Recently, Contractors has implemented mod support. The best thing about this is that the community can now mod weapons, maps and game modes. Now the only problem is that it's only recently that they've implemented this, when the game actually came out in 2018. Which means it doesn't have its initial Steam, so it will take a while before there are a lot of cool mods on there. That being said, I'm still able to find some of my favorites. Now back in the day, I was a big fan of Call of Duty games, in particular Modern Warfare 3. This game was already very close to the gameplay of COD, and the maps from these COD games, MW1, MW2, MW3, Black Ops, etc. have all been implemented in the game, which are fantastic. They even have the music from the maps. Although unfortunately it only comes on for a few seconds at a time, which gets me all excited then sad again when it goes. There are also game modes such as Kill Confirm that have already been implemented, which is actually quite cool. The only issue with the game is there are no game sounds, like if someone's capturing a flag or if you're getting dominated, no one is there to make fun of you. That's the most lacking thing in this game. It's really quiet when it comes to gaming sounds. Anyway, when it comes to weapons, currently there are only 2 mods that have been created so far. One is the bow and arrow, which is quite interesting, but the other weapons that have been added are World War II weapons. Considering we don't really have a World War II PvP game in VR, it is actually meeting a requirement that a lot of players want. I have tried the weapons and I actually enjoyed them. Onward. Now moving on to the mod support for Onward, it has only been implemented in the maps. No game modes or weapons, which is actually a shame. The maps that have been designed are actually quite nice, but to be honest, majority of the players just play the default maps. I've not actually been able to find a match with custom maps. I had to create my own lobby or play single player to try them out. The modded maps are actually quite varied as well, with night variations as well as a mansion or a spaceship and many more. Pavlov. Last but not least, Pavlov was the pioneer in mod support for VR PvP shooters. Here you have mod support for maps and game modes. This has been taken advantage of full force. The maps that are available are crazy. There are some very strange maps where it looks like a Hot Wheels road track or Minecraft maps. However, although the modding support for the game has been available for a while and there were a lot of maps that were created, that doesn't mean you can use them all now. The maps had to be updated to be able to be used after the update to Pavlov. Unfortunately, a lot of maps have not been. There are still a lot of custom maps, but maybe not the ones you might have wanted. Going back to my COD example, I am able to find maps such as Nuketown, Rust and Terminal, but a lot of Modern Warfare maps I just can't find. This is most likely because they haven't been updated and may never be. Now, the mod support for the game modes is even crazier than the maps. The modders have come up with things you wouldn't even think of. You even have a full Battle Royale game mode, which is awesome. There is also COD Zombies that you can play on Nuketown. I was surprised at the fact that even though I never enjoyed COD Zombies on flat screen, I really liked it in VR. There are various other modes such as TTT, one-on-one duels and many more. Now the issue with these modes is there are a lot of bugs. This is especially true with the COD Zombie game mode and even the other ones where you can get stuck on things or your weapons fall through the map. However, overall it's still a blast. The scores for mod support are Contractors 2.5, Onward 1.5 and Pavlov 3. Next, let's move on to single player and the AI of the bots. Contractors. I think the AI of the bots in Contractors is actually reasonable and good enough for you to have a good time in single player. The bots aren't mindless zombies walking around that don't shoot you unless you're in their face, and they also aren't cheating aimbots that can snipe you from anywhere from the map. It's a perfect blend of both. Obviously, single player will generally never be as intense as multiplayer and is relatively easy, but that's usually what you want, otherwise you would just play multiplayer. However, there was one big issue that I had previously which has been somewhat resolved with the new update. This was the lack of an actual single player mode. This is still the case. The only single player mode you actually have is free roam, which is a never ending team deathmatch. You feel like you're stuck in Groundhog Day. However, the new update has introduced bots in multiplayer. Though what you can do is just make a private match and just play with bots, and voila, you have single player. It is a solution, but still not the best. Onward. Now, in Onward, you can choose the difficulty level of the AI, which makes them a little inconsistent. Since on the rookie mode, or even sometimes the experience, they're like special needs children stuck in a room and can't get out. Or in veteran or elite, they're like John Wick taking you down before you even have a chance to gasp. There does need to be a middle ground, but sometimes the experience difficulty isn't bad. However, when it actually comes to the AI of the bots in your team, they're always dumb and never play the objective. For the game modes, Onward does have a single player mode, but when it comes to the AI, either you play it alone or play with bots that are dumb as bricks. I prefer not to have anyone on my team and just go solo, and you generally have a good time. Pavlov. Now for Pavlov, it's actually the worst AI I have ever seen. At times, I honestly didn't even realize it was the enemy team that was standing in front of me looking at me, since they wouldn't shoot. The only time you generally will die is if there are too many of them surrounding you, or if they bump into you and realize you're not supposed to be there. There are game modes that allow you to play single player on whichever map you want, but it gets boring really fast due to the stupid AI. Although, it was fun in the beginning when I didn't know how to play the game, so think of it as a tutorial and you'll be fine. So the scores for single player and AI are Contractors 2.5, Onward 2.5, Pavlov 1.5. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's move on to the core game modes without mods. Contractors. For Contractors, we have the general game modes you would expect from a PvP shooter. From Bounty Hunter, where you accrue a bounty when you kill an enemy, and the more kills you have, the higher the bounty on you. Control, where you need to pick up data points. It seems quite similar to Kill Confirm to me. Extraction, where you are an Amazon delivery driver. Bomb Defusal, Gun Game, Deathmatch and Team Deathmatch. So there is a nice variety of game modes. Onward. For Onward, you generally have three main modes. Uplink, where you need to either defend the objective or attack it. Special Ops, which is a unique game mode, where it's like Alien vs Predator. I explain it in my Onward review if you haven't seen that. And Escort, where one randomly selected player becomes the VIP and you either need to protect them or kill them, depending on which team you're on. Now all three of these game modes I've mentioned are single life modes, meaning no respawns. It's great if that's what you're looking for in a game, but it's not for everyone. There is also Uplink Assault, where you do have respawn, although it's very hard to find people playing this mode for some reason. Onward also has a rotating system for casual game modes, which includes Gun Game and One in the Chamber. That's all I've seen so far. But you can only play it for 10 days in a month, and then it's removed, which is the dumbest thing I have seen. So, they limited the game modes to the ones they can concentrate on. However, personally, I don't think it's enough. Nevertheless, there are two styles of playing, either PvP or PvE, where your team is against a bunch of bots and you can choose how many and at what difficulty. Once, it felt like a whole army was coming at me. Pavlov. When it comes to core game modes, Pavlov just kept the basic to make people happy and let the modders do the rest. So Pavlov only has PvP in Search and Destroy, Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch and Gun Game, keeping it simple to what people play. So the score for the core game modes is Contractors 3, Onwards 2.5 and Pavlov 1.5. Now let's move on to weapons, equipment, loadouts and time to kill. To be honest, all three games have similar weapons, so I'm only going to mention the differences. Contractors. The unusual thing about Contractors is that it does not have any LMGs, which is seriously disappointing. But other than that, it has all of the weapons that you would expect from SMGs, assault rifles, snipers and shotguns. Although, one of the reasons the lack of any LMGs stand out is because it feels like the bullets run out faster in Contractors for some reason. Now, there is a loadout system in the game allowing you a maximum of 3 loadouts, where you can select your weapons and put different attachments on guns as well as equipment you should take with you. There are limited points that you will be able to use for your loadout, so the more powerful the weapon or equipment, the more points it will cost. Now, one thing that Contractors has implemented recently is to be able to check your health and score from your wrists. I think this was a fantastic step, and these visuals actually look great, showing a heartbeat sensor for your health. Also, depending on which game mode you are playing, the ammo you are carrying can be limited, which means you can't always spray and pray. The time to kill in Contractors is mid to fast, meaning 3 to 4 bullets will kill you depending on which weapon you're using and the range. Onward. The weapons in Onward are everything you would expect, but it also has LMGs. However, Onward has a few things that no other PvP game has in VR. First, the syringe, which allows you to manually heal yourself, your team, or even bring them back to life, unless they've been blown up. Another thing that Onward has is a tablet, which shows you the enemy location or the map. And not only that, there is also a drone. This is really cool and useful for tactical play. Onward also has a watch where you're able to tell how many enemies are still left alive, as well as a compass to help your teammates with callouts. You also have night vision goggles, which is a whole new element in the game. The time to kill is very fast and takes around 1 to 2 bullets. So if you get into a gunfight and aren't in cover, you're probably going to die. Similar to Contractors, you have a loadout system which is points based, but it depends on which game mode you're playing to how many points you will have to spend. Pavlov. Now, in Pavlov you do have a watch, but I've not really used it for anything. There is no loadout system. Instead, you are given money at the start of each match and when you get kills, to spend on weapons in game. Now this is a good and bad thing, because you can get killed while trying to load up, which just feels cheap and annoying. However, you are able to change on the go, which eliminates the requirements for loadouts, although I would still prefer to have the option, or at the very least let me choose before the match starts. The time to kill is the slowest out of all 3 games, coming to a 5 to 6 shots on average to take down the enemy, allowing people enough time to run away or get into cover. But again, this depends on which weapon you're using and the range. Now, the score doesn't take into account time to kill, as that is very subjective. Some people may like it and others may not. So the score for weapons, equipment and loadout is Contractors 2, Onward 3, Pavlov 1.5. Now let's move on to probably the most important aspect in a multiplayer game, the player count. This will be a quick run through. Contractors. Unfortunately, Contractors has the lowest player count from all 3 games. However, it has improved by quite a lot since the update for mod support was introduced. And considering the developers are constantly releasing update after update, still keeps the game alive. Another thing to note is that the game is also on Oculus and will soon be crossplay between Quest. The option seems to be there for crossplay, however I can never find anyone, which must mean it has not been implemented as of yet. However, if we just go by the Steam player count, it's on average 40 players a day. Onward. Now Onward does have a healthy player count, and similar to Contractors, it is also on Oculus, and is also going to have crossplay between PC VR and the Quest. The Quest port comes out on my birthday, the 30th of July, but currently the player count just on Steam is around 170 on average per day, which is over 4 times the amount of Contractors. Pavlov. Now the daddy of them all, Pavlov has the largest player count, although it is not on Oculus and won't have crossplay with the Quest and PC VR. Although with an average player count of 950 per day, it doesn't really need crossplay for PC VR at least. So the scores are simply based off being able to play any game mode you want with enough people. Contractors 1.5, Onward 2.5, Pavlov 3. Just before we get to our last 2 sections, I wanted to announce the winner of the Doom VFR giveaway. Drum roll please. Congratulations! Please contact me on my Discord to claim your prize. Remember folks, the giveaway for the awesome Fallout 4 VR is now on for one of my subscribers, so make sure you're in it to win it. Let's carry on. Now that we have covered the player count, let's move on to the community and communication while playing. This is just from my experience, and because it's reliant on other people, it could be different for you. Contractors. Unfortunately, from a communication standpoint, there isn't much at all. Anyone hardly talks in the game. I don't know which headset people are using that they can't use a mic, but they just don't talk. Now, you will still find people that do talk. However, I'm basing this on an average basis, as majority of the time you will only find a couple of people that are talking and everyone else is silent. Although when you do find people that talk, the community is actually very good and friendly. It doesn't matter if they are new players or have been playing for hundreds of hours, the community is really cool and have not experienced any trolls. Onward. Now, Onward is all about communication. It will be quite rare if you find a game where people aren't talking. This is because the whole game is based on communication, where people give the enemy location or where they are, and it's super tactical. This adds a lot of camaraderie to the game, which none of the other games actually have been able to do. The community is what makes it all fit. Every game I played, I found that the players were really cool and fun to play with. They also helped explain how the game worked and how everything works, and backed me up like a team would. It brought a tear to my eye. Pavlov. Now, Pavlov does have people talking, although they are literally talking crap to you. Now, it's usually good fun and people are joking around, which is actually quite nice and adds to the enjoyment. However, at times you will get a lot of trolls in the community, where they even kill you in game repeatedly when they're on your team, and you're just thinking why. Plus, although I'm not 100% certain on this, but I still think people are cheating in the game with some aimbot, or they have crazy good aim from across the map. You can tell when someone is actually shooting at you and kills you, and then other times where you get shot without even knowing what just happened. But take that with a pinch of salt. So, the score for communication and community is Contractors 1.5, Onward 3, Pavlov 2. Now we move on to our last section before declaring the winner. Pace and fun factor. This is the most subjective element out of everything, as I can tell you the pacing of a game, but the fun factor is something personal to every individual. Contractors. So, the pace of Contractors is similar to Battlefield, ironically, as it's fast paced but not as much as Call of Duty's. You still have to be careful though and look at each corner, but if you get shot you will still have an opportunity to be able to get back into cover and fire back. The game for me is actually a lot of fun, but that's mainly due to the nostalgia and being able to play familiar game modes on familiar maps. Plus, the gunplay feels amazing, and even when I'm playing single player I enjoy it. A cool feature that Contractors has added is the ability to jump, but a seriously lacking feature is not being able to pick up the weapons of fallen enemies, which is really frustrating as you will run out of bullets in PvP and then you're just waiting to die. Onward. Moving on to Onward, this is the slowest paced game out of the three. There is no way you're going out and running and gunning for more than a few seconds, as it will most likely take 2 bullets to take you down. Is the game fun? Yes, it definitely is, but it depends on who you are playing with. Onwards is a slow-paced and very tactical shooter with a lot of realism introduced. You can pick up a fallen enemy's or even a teammate's weapons and equipment, and you will need to since you have very limited ammo. Although one thing I have an issue with in the game is not being able to see the enemy properly. You just see a shadow and you just know you either have to shoot or hide. Plus, the really limited ammo is too restrictive. This is just me though. I know there are a lot of people that love this type of game. This is a military simulator and actually is a perfect fit for it, especially with the cool equipment you have. But the slow paced style can get a little too much when you just want to have a quick nice match without needing to think too much. Pavlov. Now here is the most fast paced run and gun game, very similar to the pace of Call of Duty. This game is just for a mess around and just to have casual fun. But to be honest, you do have the tools to be more tactical if you want, and there are game modes to accommodate that. You are able to pick up the weapon of fallen enemies or teammates. Sometimes this can be bad as someone on your team may kill you to take your weapon. Pavlov is the game you may have the most amount of fun if you aren't a serious player, as you will come across a lot of kids and annoying people, but still have a great time. Now, since these elements are subjective, I'm not going to give a score for any of them. But it's time to announce which is the best PvP shooter in VR. I will be giving 3 answers. One will be based on the scores, one will be based on what I would say if a new VR player asked me, and the final one will be which I personally like the most. The final score, if you haven't already added it up, is Onward with 20 points out of a maximum of 24. To be honest, I hadn't added it up until now, so I didn't know which one would win. So the overall best game is Onward, and it actually deserves this score based on the quality of the game and thought put into it. Pavlov and Contractors tie at 17, as you will have a great time with either game, but they don't have the same quality as Onward. Now, if a new player were to ask me which of these 3 games they should get if they could only afford one, I would have to say Pavlov. The reason is, I know that they will enjoy Pavlov no matter what their playstyle, as they will be able to find something they like from all the game modes out there. Plus, it's the easiest game for someone new to get into, whereas Onward and Contractors may be a little too difficult for the new players to get into. If I were to compare the game's difficulty levels, it would be Pavlov is as easy as Call of Duty to pick up and play, Contractors is as easy as Battlefield, which takes some more time but you can get good relatively quickly, and Onward is like Rainbow Siege. Now, moving on to my personal opinion. So, in my view, Contractors is the best game out of the 3. even though Onward feels like more of a quality game. I just love the pacing, look and feel when playing Contractors, and I especially love the mod support. It just feels clean. And even when playing on Singleplayer, it's still fun. The only thing holding it back is the player count, which hopefully will increase soon with the quest players, which goes hand in hand with the amount of people talking in the game. So, tell us what score you gave, and what you think is the best out of the 3 in the comments below. Well, that's all folks. If you enjoyed the video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Sorry about the video being a bit long. I did try to cover as much as I could to help you decide which game is for you. So hopefully this has helped and you know what you're going to get now. Well, thanks for watching, have a great day, stay safe and see you next time.